What you doing, Roka? I guess you still fit in there, don't you? So for as long as I've owned goats now, which is about 5 years now, not too long, I've always had to deal with lice year after year despite how much I was trying to stop or get rid of it. We got our starter goats as bottle babies. I checked each one over for lice, and anytime I bought a new goat, checked them over for lice. Would do the sulfur baths, would buy the cat and dog flea lice tick not shampoo, but powder, and just always would see it year after year. In springtime, which we're now in summer, you usually will, that's where they flare up and you'll see them when everything's moist. But this year I did not see any lice on them. I was checking them over and didn't see any lice on the girls or our boy over there. And the only thing I did that was different was the sulfur powder that we've got. I'll show you that in a second. But I just powder it all over them, and I don't even sprinkle it in their pen or anything, but I'm not going to say that that's what took care of it, but that's the only thing I did different, and don't see any lice this year. And nutrition, I believe, is also going to play a role in the lice that you have. I mean, if you have a goat that does have lice, but they're good and healthy, you shouldn't see that many. If they're just completely infested, then you may want to take a look at what they're getting dietarily. So, because I hike with these guys at least 4 times a week. The goal is every single day, but they get out and get natural browse. I give them nutritional kelp. And I guess that is something extra that I am doing this year too, is they've been getting kelp. And then they get their minerals, get their hay, give them alfalfa pellets, just give them as much a variety as we can. We did stop doing grain this year though, for milk, just because my husband couldn't stand the screaming anymore for grain. Roka's really good about it, where she'll only make noise at actual feeding time. Kiddo, however, and she's gonna crawl on the nasty pile here, she would scream all day, every day, and still would for weeks afterwards when we stopped giving them grain. And we only saw a little bit of a drop in milk production, but I'll have to do a separate video on that and how that's going, how much of a drop we've seen. But what are you guys doing? So this is the sulfur that I use. It's from Greenway. I honestly don't remember what I paid for it. I swear it was like $15 off of Amazon. We bought it a couple years ago, and you can see that, you know, I use very little of it. We haven't needed to use a whole bunch of it. I think at the time when we got it we had like 5 goats, because now we only have 4, but I haven't even had to use this stuff this year just because the goats haven't had the lice. And then I've also used it on the chickens when they're not able to dust bathe in the winter, and if they look like they're starting to have a little parasite problem, it's helped with that too. And you know, I've used this just on its own, and I've used it with half this, half diatomaceous earth, which really stretches it that much further. But it's didn't pick this brand for any specific reason other than it's 99% sulfur. This particular brand is for improving the soil in your garden. So if you have a sulfur deficient garden, this stuff's for the garden. But as far as sulfur goes, they do sell it in stores for cattle. Like you'll see the big blocks of this stuff for cattle to increase their sulfur levels. So it's okay if the goats do ingest this, but again, it's because it's the 99% pure sulfur, and so it's safe if they do lick themselves. And in fact, I think the benefits of them licking it is that it can kind of help repel bugs and stuff off of them. But yeah, you dust them and it stays on there for about a day or so, and then they're back to looking like normal. They'll just smell like rotten eggs because this stuff does stink. They'll smell stinky for a bit. I don't mind the smell that much, but it does stink and smell like rotten eggs, so. Okay, so my camera decided to cut out this next little chunk here, but just to demonstrate how I apply it if my goats do have lice, is lice like to hang out near the base of the ears, down the neck, and down the back. So I just start by sprinkling at the base of the neck and working it down the back, and you just kind of muss the hair up a bit to get it to fall in down to the skin, and just gently work it all around their body. Obviously you do not want to get this in their eyes or their nose, but just be very careful about making sure you're thorough and working it into their cheeks. And you know, you don't have to put a lot of it all over their head, but just kind of work a little bit around. And like I was saying before, your goat should look basically back to normal by the end of the day, if not by the next day, where you won't really see the powder on the outside of their coat. It will still be underneath near their skin, and it does stay there for a while, which I think is what makes this pretty effective against the lice. They will stink still, but they won't look like they just got into your flower cabinet and got messy all over. But yeah, this has worked well for us. Like I said, we haven't even had to use this year at all, other than for me to demonstrate it here on Ebony. But it seems to do a pretty good job. Well, I hope this video was useful to you guys. If you have a problem with lice with your goats, I'd love to know if you try the sulfur and it ends up working. But we'll see you next time.